Yeah, well, I mean, welcome everyone to the Surviving Startup panel on the last day uh, of the BAM Global Congress 2021. It's been wild. I'm sure everyone's kind of minds are abuzz with all kinds of inspiration. But it is really great to have everyone along. Why don't I start? I'll open us in prayer, and then we can dive into the session in a bit more detail. But Lord, we just thank you so much. We praise you, Lord. We bow our knee before you and just acknowledge that you are the Lord over all creation. You are the Lord over all economies, and you are the Lord over us, Father. As we share thoughts now, please just give us. Um, Wisdom and insight. Please illuminate your truth into our hearts. And I pray, Father, for your will and your wisdom to be made known abundantly. I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Okay. So we have about 40 minutes or so to kind of chat through the very easy subject of how to survive startup. So we may just cover this off in 5-10 minutes, and then we can spend the rest of the time celebrating that we figured it out. But look, let me introduce myself very briefly, and then we can go around and I'll allow the people on the panel to introduce themselves as well. We'll probably spend the time kind of roughly 50-50. So what we're thinking of doing is allowing the people on the panel to share a bit of their story and their thoughts and reflections. And as they're doing that, please feel free to post questions in the Q&A, and then at the back end of those, we'll be able to. I'll throw some of those questions back to the panelists, and no doubt they'll have more interesting things to share in the Q&A section. So we'll split it kind of 50-50 between hearing some stories and then also leaving some time for questions. I'm Jay. I'm based in Sydney, Australia. I am a self-confessed kind of serial entrepreneur. So I started my first business at university. It was in a sense a BAM business. It was an internet advertising company that raised funds for mission. It was a fairly spectacular failure. And since then have started kind of maybe 4 or 5 other BAM businesses. Some have been sold and acquired, others are continuing well, and others like that tech company have been fairly spectacular failures. So it's truly been a mixed bag. But through it all, have learned a lot, and I guess I've always aimed to be a good steward of both the failures and the successes, and so kind of have worked across different sectors. Have been in investment banking and property development, e-commerce and retail and tech as well. So that's me in a very brief nutshell. But what we might do now is I'll allow each of the people on the panel to share a little bit. Some of them have prepared some thinking on the topic. Others have stories to tell. Adrian, why don't we start with you, and then we can go around to others.
Okay, thank you, Jay. Hi, I am Adrian Buhai. I live in Brașov, Romania, together with my wife and our 4 children. I love to play tennis and running. I am passionate about business's mission, and I love to help others to start their businesses. I want to share with you a part of my story and how we survived. Actually, this is the subject. 20 years ago, me and my wife decided to leave our jobs, and we started our own business. When I started my first business, my friends taught me that if we want to survive, we should avoid taxes and give bribe when needed. In 2003, me and my wife decided that we will not give bribe and we will not avoid taxes. And what was the result? We no longer survived. Our first business with second-hand computers went bankrupt. My friends were right. I started a new business in partnership with a friend, but with the same decision in mind that we will not avoid taxes and we will not give bribe. And we prayed, and God provided this time, and we survived. We are still running this business, and we develop construction estimating software for Romania, Moldova, and recently United States. Then I thought that in order to survive, we should avoid to make friends among our employees. We should keep the distance, and thought that if I put pressure on them and control them, we will survive and make profit. And in 2009, we decided to split the company, and all our employees decided to follow my partner, whom actually was not a Christian.
Wow.
I failed. My business survived, but I failed. I used to live in a kind of divided reality, going to work to do money and to the church on Sunday to serve God. God sent in my life new Christian friends that taught me about the Lordship of Christ over all life and how I can serve God through my work and business. At the same time, I started to read about and to connect with BAM movement. I realized that my new colleagues are my neighbors, and Jesus' great command is to love and serve them. We started to care more for them, make friends among them, invite them to our home for barbecue in our backyard. And they started asking about our faith, and we also shared the gospel with them. We started to see our business as our mission and find new ways to serve our community. We created some educational and entrepreneurial programs as part of our business as mission. In the last years, I mentored a few startups, and I want to share with you two ways of not surviving as a BAM startup. If you are an entrepreneur and start a BAM business with no clear mission in mind, then you will not survive as BAM. Eventually, you will become a good profit-driven business. If you are a missionary and you start a BAM business with no clear business in mind, then you will not survive. Eventually, you will become a not-for-profit, donation-based business, if we can say this. So the challenge is to be or become a missionary entrepreneur whom will be able to start a BAM business and succeed in your business as mission. And a community and a mentor is very important on this way. For me, was something that was very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian. Appreciate that. Just a reminder to folks that as you're listening to these stories, if it triggers a question or something you'd like to learn more about, feel free to just mention that in the Q&A, and then once we've kind of gone around and heard the respective stories, we can address those directly. But Amanda, would you like to share your reflections on the topic?
Yes, sure. I prepare lots of thoughts, and I would like to share what our company is. So, fashion and freedom, business and beauty. Can you combine those? Yes, you can. Let me share you my story. Since I was a little girl, I always loved fashion. Fashion always meant beauty for me, a beauty that I could take anywhere with me wearing it, right? But one day, after a few years of working in the industry and having a degree in fashion in Brazil, in New York, I go to São Paulo and I visited the sweatshops there. And that beauty changed a little bit for me. I saw a man who left his family behind in Colombia, chasing a dream to have a job in Brazil, but he ended up working, sewing in the fashion industry from 7 a.m. until 11 p.m. And at night, he would sleep on cardboards in the streets. And I found, when I visited there, many other stories like that. And what always meant beauty for me, it became a horror. I thought, is this my fault? What can I do to change this? Why did I see this? So after 4 years of really hard work, of lack of resources, lack of knowledge, lots of mistakes, we found an investment, a couple very nice, and they invested in us, and we launched Dress for Freedom, which is a high-end company that brings beauty against human trafficking. And I'm going to share with you how we do that. The dress of Dress for Freedom is to bring beauty. Why? As I learned from my friend Matt Stunehag, God loves beauty. And so we bring beauty through our garments. So the prints, every print we have, share a story of beauty and freedom. So every garment we have the best material and the best edges, which we use French seams. So we have an excellent quality. The core of Dress for Freedom is to bring awareness against human trafficking. So when our client goes to a fashion show or read about us in a magazine or see us in a TV show, he hears or she hears that today, tens of millions of people around the world are being held slaves. They're victims of human trafficking, but together we can change that. So the freedom for Dress for Freedom is to bring dignity. As you know, a root cause for human trafficking is unemployment. So what we do is we do business with organizations that give training for people in vulnerability so we can give them a job. So for this collection, for example, we did hand embroidery. We had this group of women in vulnerability in Ponta Grossa who had really nothing to eat during COVID. So we gave them training, and it's not any kind. This is a French material and Brazilian thread. So this is the best quality you can get. But I was really scared because it took a long time for them to learn. And because we paid them by hour, the t-shirt became really expensive. And I was like, are people going to pay for this? But and then, as a surprise, people paid really well for this t-shirt, which was really expensive. But the most important thing for me was that we knew that these women that had no food during COVID now could provide for their whole family. So again, I would like to go back to the beginning. Fashion and freedom, business and beauty. Can you combine those? Yes, you can. I wish I could tell you we're thriving, but the truth is we're still surviving. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Amanda. Thank you. I'm looking forward to diving into that story a little bit more, particularly in the Q&A. I think there's there's a lot of wisdom to be mined. Hakan, I might throw to you again. Really curious to hear your thoughts on this topic.
Yeah, Amanda, I love the story. Totally.
Thank you.
So I have gone a different journey. Some of you have heard of it already, but I started as a church planter and found out in my church planting effort that unless we can provide food on the table or a job that for people in the church. What is the future of the church? So that's where my journey into business started, and I knew nothing about business really. But this is now 23 years ago. So, and what I'm doing right now is that I help young people in emerging markets to start and run businesses, and we help refugees in Europe and Middle East to start businesses in their new host country with the same tools, basically. So I'll share just a little bit from both the things that we are telling new startuppers and some things that comes from my own experience. So one of the first things I would say, and it comes back to what you shared, Jai, don't be afraid to fail. Actually, we're telling our young startuppers that failure is part of the journey. Unless you become comfortable with that, you're going to fail. You're going to fail. Right? You're going to fail anyway, because failure is really the best learning that you can have, isn't it, Jai? Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you learn
100%, 100%. I mean, failure was my MBA, I often say.
That's true.
Yep.
And actually, to prove the point, if you go to an investor, many of them would say, those that are really experienced, that I would not invest in somebody as an entrepreneur unless they have failed, 2-3 times. Why is that? Because they know that the failure is the best learning experience that you can have. So we try to fail fast, so it's not too expensive. We try to fail fast so you still have some energy and some hope to do it again. And we try to to fail also in the small details, which means I'm full of assumptions. And I come to the market with my big idea, and I assume that this is what the customers need. And the longest journey that you can have is from your thinking to the thinking of the customer. It's not easy to do that journey, and it takes a lot of work. So you'll be failing with your first assumptions, most likely. And if you're happy with that, and you say that the most important thing is that I can satisfy my customer, that is the best advice that I can give to a startupper, to hold your idea with an open hand, because it's not really about the idea. Anyway, they think that the idea is so brilliant, that this is new and nobody has seen this before and everybody wants it. But that is not the truth. Somebody else has done it before, somebody else has failed with this before, and it's not as new as you think. But it is about you as the entrepreneur. That's where the whole thing is. So develop that part. Begin with the end in mind. What do you really want to get out of this? What should be the end result? What is it that you want to see? And if you're a believer, you do this as a BAMR, what should be the result of the business? Because you will be super focused on getting things up and running, and you will lose sight of that end. And then you start to make the wrong decisions. Do you have the grit that it takes? Grit, one of these buzzwords, passion and perseverance for long-term and important goals. Passion, perseverance, that is one of the most important things for an entrepreneur to have. Do you have it? Or is this just something that you want to do for a couple of years? Well, maybe take a couple of years before you even see the sun again. It's a hard work to start a business. It's not an easy thing. If you want to have an easy life, don't start a business. Be ready to pivot, which is turning around and do something else, or do a major change in some area in the business, because you will probably have to do that along the way. And if you don't do it in the beginning when you start the business, you're likely to have to do it along the way when the world is changing. So get used to the thinking of reinventing the whole thing again, and be nimble with what happens in the market. Be focused on the important things, not just the urgent things. Be careful with the resources that you have, because in the beginning you are the resource, and you are time and energy. Your time and your energy, don't lose it on things that are not important. So be careful with that. And then it's a very lonely journey to be an entrepreneur. It's one of the most loneliest journeys that you can have, actually. Maybe not even the people very close to you will really understand what you're doing. Don't give up, but have a coach. Have somebody that is asking you difficult questions and good questions to get you thinking outside your box. That's a very good thing to have. If you're a BAMR, don't have full-time support other than maybe just in the very beginning. Why do I say that? I had full-time support for 5 years when I started a business in Turkey. That brought me to a point where I started to make the wrong decisions. It was too easy to employ another one. And after some time, we almost took the company down based on that it was a little bit too easy. I think that you have to have the knife at your neck as a business person to be able to take the right decisions, because right decisions are often hard. They cost something. It's a little bit painful, but they are the right decisions for a business to survive. So we're talking about surviving as a startup. You can have support, that's fine, and you definitely need the prayer support, but financially you need to come into reality soon. So what else? Don't over spiritualize your vision. But God has said this. God has probably, hopefully, put you on a track. He doesn't spell out all the details for you. And if the thing that you hear goes against common sense, God also has common sense, right? He gave that to you. So if it sounds too spiritual and everybody else around you says, think about this and think about that, don't ignore that as if you know better, but listen to common sense advice around you. I'll stop there, otherwise it takes too much time. So we can have more in questions instead.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks so much. There was a lot in that. I wish I had kind of brought my pen and paper. Would have jotted down notes, but I thought I have to look respectable and keep my face on screen. But there's some really great questions in the Q&A section, so we might jump into those. David has asked, I'd love to hear reflections, learnings from any of you about the less obvious costs of being a founder on your families, kids, etc. Would anyone like to share some reflections on that?
Do you mean like the cost that for while you were working, what your family is like kind of suffering or something like that?
Yeah, I think it's a reference to the broader sacrifices that you make in walking that entrepreneurial path.
Yeah, well, I'm a mom of a 4-year-old, right? And it's just so cute. Today she's presenting what her mom does. So today she's presenting Dress for Freedom in her school as well. Cool. So we're both doing this today. But during the pandemic, I gotta say, we had the most sales that we ever had before, because people finally understood what a business actually is during the pandemic. And I gotta say, I got very irritated because we're all at home the whole time and I'm selling a lot. So I don't know if I'm answering the question, but I kind of went nuts for Jesus, for my business, and that was not healthy at all. So I went to therapy and I'm working on so many things on my character. And I found out that this freedom that I always talked about it, I need a lot of it. So that's something that I feel like, and of course my husband really felt that, my irritation, like when going, like the business going so well and me so irritated instead of being happy or enjoying about it. So
Bill Job has been the one teaching me the fact that the business belongs to God. That I mean, really, not just symbolically or like a nice thing to say, but actually, he's the owner. So that in the perspective of balance helps quite a bit to feel that it's not about me, about the everything that I can do. Having said that, I think for somebody that wants to start a business, and this has been a discussion I've heard this among BAM people that have not started a business before but are now going to do it, and they are so keen on that they want to do the ministry side and just get going with the business part. That is not reality. If you want to start a business that is going to be a business, most probably you'll spend 60 hours a week the first couple of years. And if you're not willing to do that, maybe you should reconsider. Because it is not easy to get up and running with a business. And so then it comes the question to the family. You have to do this together. You don't have to be involved in the business together. Some people can do that, and that's great, but others shouldn't do that. But you need to make the decision together, because that is a cost that will incur on you. But then I think that we can do also something, and this is for the future of BAM. We just started a BAM in a box or BAM and replication business type of a group yesterday. And I think for the future, we need to prepare things so that everybody doesn't have to start from scratch, but we can start with something that is a bit tested, proven, with a manual and a backup, so that we can have an easier start, because there are so many other things that are difficult when we go to different country, different language, different culture, and all the circumstances.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
When I started my business with software, I worked 16 hours a day for 1 year, and was very difficult. And at that time have 2 children. Now we have 4. But this kind of effort and sacrifice, I think that we can do for a short period of time in our life, and supported by our wife. My wife supported me for this, and otherwise, doesn't work. Now I have time, and we create a culture of we need time for ourselves and for our families, and for now I do sport, I play with my kids, and I have time for everything. But there was a time in my life when I sacrificed a lot for this.
Okay, we might jump to a question from Jonathan. Jonathan asks, what is the most common mistake that startups can make? So I'll throw to you.
One thing that has been very clear to me is that there is often something when you take your idea and start to work on it, that in your gut that if this assumption is not correct about my customer, about their need, about their pain, about my solution, how it's going to be received, and so forth. If one of those assumptions, a big one, is not right, this is going to fail. And then they start to test. When we start the experimentation and testing things, they put it away a little bit, because you don't want to test that. You have a feeling that if I test that, then I have to scrap the whole idea. So they start to test the details and small things that it doesn't matter so much if I need to change this and so forth. So we say, start with the idea killers, those that will kill your idea. Test them early on, so that you don't waste your time and energy. That's one of those things.
Yeah, that's excellent insight. Amanda or Adrian, is there anything you would add to that?
Yes, I think that if you base your business on presuppositions, this is the most dangerous. You need to make some presupposition, but you need to be aware that these are just presupposition about your customers, about your about the future, and it can be something that will become real or not, and you need to find ways to drive into to shift when it's needed.
Okay. I might add a reflection here briefly. I mean, so I worked with a lot of startups over the years, and I think one thing that often strikes me is, and I see this in myself as well as a founder as well, is the ease with which I can go from pegging my hopes on God to pegging my hopes on something else. I often think of Psalm 121, and it's where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord. But so often it's so easy as a founder to answer that question differently. Where does my help come from? It comes from that big contract that if we could just win, or my help comes from if we could just close our Series A or our Series B, that will give us the capital we need to grow. Or where does my help come from? My help comes from getting the best team of co-founders around me that have started and exited businesses. And there's so many things that the world will throw at you as saying, just do this and just do that. And that is where your help comes from. There are so many of these startup idols that can actually take the place of God as actually being where your help comes from. And I've made that mistake many times. And I, no doubt in my sinful nature will continue to. But that is something that I think commonly I see in startups is taking God away and putting another idol in its place as the true source of where your strength and success will come from. But we might jump to another question. There's some great questions in here, actually. Thank you to everyone who's posted them. There's one here. As a VC, Sovereign's Capital, two issues continually come up with our founders: identity as a child of God versus entrepreneur, and Sabbath versus working really hard. How do each of you deal with these tensions?
Who wants to start?
I can start. To start, I would like to say that I am doing that God this year of 2021 told me to stop everything. And that was really scary, really scary. As I told you before, I was kind of going nuts, working so much, and that was a big mistake. I did not respect my Sabbath, especially because my business was in my home all the time while I was taking care of my daughter, while I was with my husband. And I didn't know, and I still think I don't know how to separate that. So this year, what happened to me is God told me to take a break for 6 months, and I am doing that. And God is taking care of every single area of my life. I found out so many things in my health that were going wrong, so many things that I left behind to do this mission. So yeah, the Sabbath, it's something that I'm learning. I've been not working every day for many hours since January, but I still can tell you that I don't feel rested, and this is the only thing I'm working on it, because it was my dream to be with you guys. But I know when we come back, I know God will guide me. Kind of.
Thank you. Regarding the identity, we are the child of God, and He called us to be entrepreneur. So you need to put this first. I am the child of God, and He called me to be an entrepreneur and to create something for this world, valuable for in this world. And this is how I see now. It was not the same during my journey. I used to, as I said in the beginning, I used to live in a divided reality. Okay, now I serve God, now I go to work to do my money, and but God changed my mind, and yeah, I am His child, and He called me to be an entrepreneur and to create something great in this world. Software, I create software, and it's for Him. And I like very much in the Revelation, in the end of the book of Revelation, it's written there that the kings of the earth bring their treasure in the new city, in the new Jerusalem. And I see that everything that we create now and do good as something good and valuable, God will bring in this new Jerusalem. And it's something that lasts forever. And this is a calling.
I think for me, the journey has been going through the times where it's like a roller coaster to be an entrepreneur. I feel like it's so many ups and downs. And for me, I think the entrepreneurial personality, or whatever, the drive inside of me has probably played its tricks on me. So the older I get, the easier it is for me to understand that I am a child of God, and that's it. I mean, the rest of the thing is things that He's doing through me, and it's great, but it's temporary. The eternal picture is that I'm His, I'm loved, and I'm going to Him. So oftentimes we say that the beauty of training and I have working with young people is to take the learnings that a 70-year-old has. I'm not there yet. A 70-year-old has, and give it to a 30-year-old. If you can do that, that person will be very well off. So listen to us, you guys that are younger. You are a child of God first, and then you can do things together with Him. But He owns the company, so don't overdo it. Don't take it on yourself. With Sabbath, I thought once upon a time, because I was training time management and those things, that there's something called balance, where you have balance with everything. For an entrepreneur, that doesn't really look like that it's everything is nice and tidy and balanced. It goes in seasons. And I think what the most important for me has been when it comes to Sabbath is that there is rest somewhere. I know what fills me up and what drains me, so that I can choose. It doesn't have to be a certain day, even though I like to have Sundays free for church and for it's a good rhythm. But it's even more important, maybe, in a sense, that I really know what charges me. Because it can look like work for somebody, like when I go out carpenting or working in the garden or something, that looks like work, right? But it's recharging. It's something different from what I'm doing otherwise, and I think that is also a time where I spend time with God. I've spent time talking with Him, and then starting. For me, it has been important to start the day right. That's kind of a mini Sabbath in the everyday work, to get the bearings right in the beginning.
Fantastic. So I'm conscious of time. I think we have 4 minutes left. What I'd like to do to wrap up, I mean, this could go for many hours, and in some ways I wish it could. But what I'd like to do just to close is to give each of you an opportunity to share very briefly, if the kind of the one piece of advice that you would give, you wish you had received when you were kind of starting off your. What do you wish that you had been told about surviving startup? What's the kind of that one piece of advice that you'd like to share with the group? And we'll go in reverse this time. So Hakan, we'll start with you.
I think that the the basic learning is probably trust in God.
Yeah.
Trust in God. Sometimes trust is spelled RISK in business, so it has consequences to trust, but He's there. And if it is true, as we said, that it is His business because I am His, so everything I do, everything I have is His, then trust that He can do it. And even when you fail, trust that He's there. And He will use that failure to teach you things and to bring things in order, and He will give you the energy to go ahead.
Amen. Thank you. Amanda, your one kind of final piece of advice.
Well, it is what God spoke to me through this whole event, is invite Jesus to your business, right? Remember, He's the owner. Invite Jesus for every single meeting, everything you do.
Thank you. Adrian.
I say two things. Very first is don't live in a divided reality, and let Jesus be Lord over all your life, everything that you do to serve Him and wait for reward from Him. This was something that changed my mind and the way I do things now. And the other one is find a mentor, find someone to let him to put you questions, hard questions, and to be able also to ask him about what you should do.
Yeah, thank you. If I can, I mean, the one thing I wish I had been told at the very start of my entrepreneurial journey would be to really reconceptualize success, really think through what it is to survive a startup. And I think what I have learned and am learning still is that to survive a startup doesn't necessarily mean that you grow and you have 100 staff and you're wildly profitable. I think to survive and even to succeed, strangely enough, sometimes is to fail in a worldly sense, but to succeed in a spiritual sense, to remain faithful at every step, and to walk with Christ in the ups and downs. And sometimes those downs will be a failure in the eyes of the world. Yeah, look, I'm so grateful to hear your thoughts. It really has been a great privilege. I feel like we just scratched the surface of the wisdom that sits in this group. But thank you so much. Thank you for the wonderful questions. Yeah, I think that's time. I'm not entirely sure what is next on the schedule, but we'll close this officially now. And yeah, just thanks once again. Really, really appreciate it.
Super good that you did this, Jai.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.